Welcome back to this ministry in the wilderness. Today is the last Sunday in the season of Easter, and we again hear from John, the Gospel of John. Now, in John's Gospel, Jesus has visited Jerusalem multiple times, unlike the other three Gospels, where his ministry was primarily in Galilee, and he only came to Jerusalem at the end of his ministry. We hear the story of Jesus healing a man who had been suffering for 38 long years. Jesus restored him to health. Yet, as so often happens, there is at the end a minor twist. The author or authors mention it's done on the Sabbath. And healing was considered work in Jesus' day. A reading from John, chapter 5, verses 1 through 9. After Jesus healed the son of the official in Capernaum, there was a festival of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there is a pool, called in Hebrew Beth Zatha, which has 5 porticos. And in these lay many invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man who was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. And while I am making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." Jesus said to him, "Stand up, take up your mat, and walk." At once the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. Now this day was the Sabbath. Now, unlike what many today would have you believe, Jesus' ministry was about compassion. He reached out to a man who obviously had been suffering for a long time and asked him if he wanted to be made well. He didn't stop to consider if the man was worthy of healing. He didn't stop to consider that the man's beliefs might have kept him from receiving the healing effects of the water had he not waited them to be bubbling or stirred up. He didn't even consider the ramifications of doing work on the Sabbath, even though this was breaking the Mosaic law and one of the big commandments. "Thou shalt keep the Sabbath day holy." And that law had been interpreted by society to mean to not do any work. Jesus didn't even ask this man to proclaim who he was or become baptized before he was quote unquote saved, brought back into balance with the life around him. Jesus' ministry and teaching was about love, empathy, and bringing communities together. He did not come to judge the world, as he said on many occasions, and contrary to those who would seek to judge you in his name. The Old Testament and Old Covenant was taken from a culture and a belief system where there were many gods, and the one who could no longer be named, for by uttering the name, for the benefit of the prayers that you would put forth, was taking that name in vain for oneself. A God who was more powerful than the God of your enemies. That's a pagan God. One God among many, just the most superior. And that deity was a jealous deity. And a good number of people proclaiming Christ still believe in a punishing God, not understanding the spiritual truths behind those old laws and understandings. Now, many of the descendants of Abraham had spent years in toil and torment as slaves in Egypt, a place they had gone to find refuge during a prolonged drought. Not unlike the migrants today who would flee their homelands to seek refuge in a place that prospered above other countries. They toiled every day as slaves, and so in their freedom, they were told to set aside one day a week to reconnect with the one they called God. Experience the one from whom all blessings flow, which is indeed not us. All commandments in some way are about realizing that we, you and me, are not the center of creation. Do not do this thing called life alone. None of us do, ever. And the rules are there to help us to stay in balance with the divine and our communities, enhancing our existence and keeping us from the false understanding that we are alone in any of this, renewing on a regular basis our connection with that divinity and cementing our identity as a people. However, the Sabbath became, because of the law, a reason for potential punishment. What kind of loving being wants his followers to be killed, for that was the punishment, for not attending to his laws so strictly? A pagan, jealous God. And so throughout the biblical era, even though this God was the Most High and a punishing God, the Jews of the time had shrines in their houses. Archaeologists have found in all of the ancient houses that they've dug up in Jerusalem that there were shrines to other gods in most Jewish homes. Jesus was acting in the tenor of the law, but not the letter of the law, and was condemned by the religious authorities for that. The God of Abraham, according to religious leaders, demanded sacrifice. The God of Jesus commanded love. The God of Jesus healed a man who had suffered for years and didn't bother about the day. We in our society are not acting as followers of Jesus, and in truth, not even as the followers of the God of Abraham, for we don't follow Mosaic laws either. Many want the 10 Commandments, but not the Beatitudes displayed in public buildings. And still, they themselves do not keep the Sabbath day holy. And by the way, which day is that? Saturday is the Sabbath for the Jews. Yet it's Sunday for the Christians. Friday for the Muslims. And all of them are followers of the same God, as if there are multiple gods that we could follow. Jesus came as a reformer. He was reforming temple Judaism, where he had to pay in official temple money to have the restorative rituals performed for you, or to purchase the animals needed to be sacrificed for you to get right with your health, your life, the community, or even get right with God. In John's gospel, Jesus overturned the money changers' tables at the start of his ministry. He never asked for payment to dispense grace. The grace his relationship with God provided, nor asked people to live a certain way before coming into contact with them. He did ask for people to reflect on their behaviors and return to a relationship with the one that he called Father, to understand that the core of all commandments was about being in right relationship with God and the world. That everyone was a neighbor. Everyone was a neighbor, not just those from your country or group. We are asked to love and live differently. This is the way. The quote-unquote normal way is that it is all about me and mine, myself and culture above all others. In that way lies cruelty. In that way lies judgment. In that way lies divisions, real or imagined, and a love that is self-serving. The normal way is not the way of Christ. The way of Christ heals when it's not supposed to. It does not judge and asks others not to judge. It forgives. It turns the other cheek when slapped. It stands up to cruelty and injustice without violence. When the ones who say they come in Jesus' name tell you that empathy is a sin, that compassion is a weakness, they do not come in the name of the one who healed on the Sabbath day. They come in their own name, proudly displaying it on the new temples of society, enriching the ones who have, rather than lifting those up, take from those who have not. Walk the way, and you will know the divine, which transcends time and cultures. Healing happens even when the waters are not troubled. Walk the way. Stand up and walk with love. Amen. Now, I've been gone a while, as I said last week. And in that time, I've quit my usual ways of publicizing these videos, which then was Facebook. So I ask you all who have gotten this far in the video, have watched to the bitter end, to get the message out by linking this video on your media feeds. Subscribe, please, if you are new to the channel, and tell others to do it too. And like, if you can. I pray that this endeavor will be meaningful to you and that you will share your journey with others. We may exist in the wilderness, but we are not alone here, rest assured. Leave a comment if you want, and come on back to this channel in the wilderness. I remain yours in faith. Until next time, blessings to you all.